out there, Darryl?
Super duper. Okay.
So this is the real one now.
Okay, good to know.
You ready? Would you like to do the clap?
Sure.
Look at that! You're getting so much better.
Because you're making me.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Editing the Academy. I'm Darryl.
I'm Laura.
Laura, what year and movies are we talking about?
These are the movies of 1977. The movies that were released from January to December 1977 and that were up for Best Picture in the spring of 1978.
And the movies are...
They are Annie Hall, Star Wars, The Turning Point, The Goodbye Girl, and Julia.
And we will acknowledge once again, unfortunately, we were not able to watch Julia. We did everything possible, and unless we wanted to spend $60 on a DVD, which unfortunately not enough of you were watching this for us to justify that cost.
That's right.
So we did not watch Julia. If you know of it anywhere, again, drop us a comment so we see it. We really would like to be able to watch all of these movies, and if we ever do, we'll go back and do a little quick insert for this video if we ever can. But we checked everything, like Internet Archive, everything, and it's just not available anywhere, which is surprising given the cast.
It is very surprising, and The Turning Point was hard to find.
Yes.
We finally found it, so we were able to watch it, but it was tough to find as well.
Yeah, it was only available in the Internet Archive,
Yep.
of all places. Okay, other notable films that came out that year: The Deep, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Saturday Night Fever, Pumping Iron, Arnold Schwarzenegger's first movie, High Anxiety, Slapshot, classic comedy, Kentucky Fried Movie, Smokey and the Bandit, Eraserhead, Capricorn 1, classic bad sci-fi, The Spy Who Loved Me, Airport 77, which you've mentioned a couple times, the animated Hobbit, and my personal favorite on the list, Emma Daughter's Junk Bang Christmas.
Well, there you go.
All right.
That is quite the varied list.
Yes. So, what would you like to... Oh, should we just start with giving this stuff to Julia so then we can move on?
Yes.
Okay, Julia, directed by Fred Zimmerman from a screenplay by Alvin Sargent. It's based on a chapter from Lillian Hellman's 1973 book, Pentimento, about the author's relationship with a lifelong friend, Julia, who fought against the Nazis in years prior to World War II. It stars Jane Fonda, Vanessa Redgrave, Jason Robards, Hal Holbrook, Rosemary McMurphy, Ming Michelle, and Meryl Streep in her film debut. So, again, I'd really like to be able to see what this is all about. It was nominated for Best Picture. For this and moving forward, we're not actually going to say if any of these won or did not win Best Picture for the reveal at the end.
I like that.
Okay.
So we are holding you in suspense.
Yes. All right. Which one would you actually like to start talking about first?
Let's start with The Turning Point.
All right. The Turning Point, written by Arthur Lawrence, directed by Herbert Ross, stars Shirley MacLaine, Anne Bancroft, along with Leslie Brown, Mikhail Baryshnikov, and Tom Skerritt. It was nominated for a ton of stuff: Best Director, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, and Best Sound. Outside of not revealing if it won Best Picture, it didn't win anything. All right, so this one again was really hard to find.
Fun facts?
Oh shoot! Yes,
That's
of course.
okay. We actually also have another item on this list that we're going to start doing. I looked up to see if it was on the AFI list.
Oh, okay.
Each of these movies, this one was not on the AFI list.
Okay.
So, fun fact is the character of Michael, who was played by an actor named James Mitchell. It was based on Jerome Robbins, first of all, and second of all is that actor, who I and many of you know well for his 40 years on All My Children, where he was a star of that, was also a wonderful dancer and played the Dream Curly ballet in the ballet sequence in Oklahoma.
Oh.
You know, there's Dream Ballet, and Curly is actually played by James Mitchell doing the ballet. He was part of the huge American company.
Okay, interesting.
So there, I had Palmer Cortland from All My Children. I had to get it in. Thank you. Love my soaps.
That's perfectly fine. All right, so this is definitely 100% 70s film. It has that 70s soft color palette to it, where it almost seems like it's a made-for-TV movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was fine for me. It didn't really sway me either way. It is always a little off-putting to see things that are in such soft lighting sometimes. it almost kind of fit with the tone of the film anyway, so it was fine for me. It took me a little bit to get my bearings on this one.
Uh-huh.
You're thrown right into the world, and the expectation is you know what world you're being thrown into, and you don't for a little bit. So it took me, oh, okay, now I see what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, quite literally, the world of ballet, on stage, off stage, a ballet family, which I did kind of like the way the film took a lot of the tropes that you see in like sports movies or like rock movies, and just they use those, but this time it was just about ballet, like the young daughter who is also trying to become a ballerina like her mom, and well, not her father was a ballerina, but a ballet
he
dancer.
was. Ballet dancer. You're right. Sorry, wrong terminology.
So I liked that they kind of fixated you and gave a lot of those things that you were familiar with already, just in a different world, so you could kind of get in a better in if you are not familiar with ballet. So I like that. I have problems with the movie.
Fair.
But I will say that the two of them, I thought, played beautifully off of each other.
Yeah.
And the long suspense that they had of Shirley wanting to ask this one particular question of both of them, and you could see moments where that just came through, and she didn't do it, but it was just influencing everything about her.
Yes.
I'd like that they played with that tension until essentially the end. I thought that was well handled. That's what I'm going to start with.
All right, so I'm going to play off the two women. First of all, they were such wonderful actresses. So Anne Bancroft, I haven't seen in a bunch of things. And so, I mean, like, I know who she is, and I know she's wonderful in the things I've seen, The Graduate, Miracle Worker. But I thought she was wonderful in this. And also, Shirley MacLaine, I'm just used to her later years when she's shrill and angry and very big. And this was a very soft part for her.
It was, yeah.
And I thought they both acted very beautifully. I liked the set that they had, as far as it was set in this ballet world, and it took you a little while to get, like you were saying, to get to why is it that this is important, what's not. It's also universal. You were saying it's sports motif, but it's also universal of sliding doors, of what if I had chosen that path, what if I had chosen this path, you know. I think everybody thinks that at some point in their life, and so I thought the setup was very interesting.
Yeah, that is this central kind of point and being of Shirley MacLaine's character throughout the entire thing. Like, everything she does is through this looking back kind of lens.
Yes.
Did I make the right choice by having the family? Would I have actually gotten the part that propelled Anne's character to such stardom? Like, these are things that drive her daily existence.
I have one more pro, and then I have some constructive things too, so I'll turn back to you. But the other pro is just the dance. To be fair, it was a little too much ballet for me. I'm just not, you know, it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. Mikhail Baryshnikov is an athlete. You know, you can see at one point he was defying gravity. He jumped in the air and like did a slow turn before he dropped to the ground so gracefully. He also had the acting chops that I think the daughter did not.
Yeah, I agree with
that. I
I
think you could see his natural acting ability that obviously he's honed over the years. The daughter had the same beautiful dancing skills, but not the acting skills.
She was a real life ballerina.
Right. But I think she wanted to break into acting as well. And
I had to look it up. She did play a couple other things, but she didn't last very long because her chops were not at the same level as people would expect. So
yeah, but you just saw him, and he was very natural, I thought.
I had to look this up as well. He was 29 during the
Was
film.
he really?
Yeah.
I thought he was much younger than that.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
Which, in the world of ballet, is like middle-aged.
Ancient, exactly.
Okay, so my biggest complaint about this is the top tier cast were excellent.
Agreed.
The second tier cast were crap.
I would say Tom Skerritt I would put in the top tier cast.
100%.
Okay, all right.
So you have Shirley, Anne Bancroft,
Yeah.
Mikhail, Tom Skerritt, and the daughter, who she was not all that great, but she was fine.
Yes.
Everybody else was horrible.
The teachers, the woman who owned the ballet, yeah.
The young up and coming director who initially
horrible.
Why would you allow such a bad actor to be in this movie? Recast him. I don't
He
know if
was
he's part of
horrible.
the ballet world or not, but
Yeah.
every time he spoke, I was just like, no, please, just shut up. He took me out of it
He was fake.
every time.
He was so fake.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that was a problem for
Nope.
me.
Fully agree with that.
There are multiple threads that are going through this film, so it tried to tackle a lot of things. I think most of them were handled fine, but not great. And I would have liked to have seen this take some of those threads out so that it didn't have so much that it was trying to weave together. So you had the family of dancers with their elders, like the young generation versus the old generation.
Yes.
You had Emma, who wants to be relevant, but she's actually aging out and she's starting to get jealous. You had, like, just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and again, it was all handled fine, but none of it was excellent or superb.
I think actually one of them was not handled fine, and that was the subplot of Shirley MacLaine having the affair with Anthony Zerba.
Yeah.
That,
okay.
First of all, where did that come out of? That came out of nowhere. The entire story is she loved Tom Skerritt so much that she gave up acting, that she had the child, that she had the family, and yet she was lonely for a couple of weeks, so she went off and slept with this other guy. And again, maybe asterisk 70s, maybe it was the 70s, and we should just kind of hand wave it away. But I think it was created to create drama between her and her daughter. And there was enough drama for them to play off of. They did not need this added piece. It never comes up. It's not a plot point between her and her husband. You never see the guy she has the affair with after they meet. Why?
So, during the conversation with her daughter, when her daughter learns of this, it just won't
Yes.
look at her and won't talk with her. She does make, because I was right there with you until she said to her daughter, "You don't think your father has been doing the same for years?"
Yeah.
And so you get the impression that she never has. She knows her husband has been occasionally having dalliances, and she just took an opportunity finally because of all the fucked up stuff going on in her head. She was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this for once.
Okay, that's valid. I don't think they did it well.
No,
but that's
no,
a
I
valid
agree.
point.
But
Yeah.
and I was right there with you, like, what is the point of this? Why is this here? It's only to get the daughter mad. That's it.
Yeah.
Until she said that sentence, and I was like, oh, okay, that does bring in a lot of other things. I can understand it now. But again, not handled very well.
No, and too much with everything else that's going on.
One of the things that Shirley does so well, it's borderline comical. She does an amazing, I'm so excited to see you. Like, every person that she sees,
Yes.
she like squeals and hugs, and I was like, oh, and it seems 100% genuine.
She is very natural, like
Yeah.
the way, again, I think I've seen her in her later years, and it's always so serious or just dramatic. And this was natural and sweet, and yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so, if you ever need that again, just make sure you're casting Shirley. 'Cause she's
Okay, good
great.
to know. Good to know. I think she's
Um,
around 89 right now. I'm not sure you haven't seen her in a while. All right.
I did like some of the directorial choices, like
Okay.
when the daughter is going on stage because she's drunk and she's not handling things well, and the way they filmed it, it was all behind the scenes where you had Anne Bancroft's character kind of in the shot, but so you could see her reaction and her fear.
Yes.
I liked that as a choice, rather than constant close-ups of the daughter making mistakes or whatever, and then cutting back to her. They did do that, but setting that up so you could see the full breadth of it as well, I thought was a good choice.
Yeah.
One of the very few, but a good choice.
I like that you set it up as the directorial choice. I agree with it. As far as the screenwriting choice,
Yeah.
I didn't think it was necessary. And again, she didn't seem like that they would let her on in that sort of situation.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that Anne Bancroft wouldn't have just like stripped down, put on her costume, and run out there. That she was that type of woman.
Yeah.
I did like too that they gave both women a little bit of depth. So, you certainly had it with Shirley MacLaine. You saw her life in full. But you also saw a lot of Anne Bancroft as far as, yes, her work was her life, but she also had kind of like an on-again, off-again fling with this guy. She had the apartments and the clothes and things that were important to her and her family. And so her family was the ballet school or the ballet troupe. I liked that. She wasn't just a one note.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about the writing, even though Tom Skerritt's character isn't on there a lot, you did get a lot of his sensibility and who he was. Even the son, who's barely in it, like who's playing both sports and doing ballet, you got a good sense of that he really did it. He wasn't being forced into this. He really enjoyed it and wanted to do it. Like, they gave depth to all of the characters so you could kind of latch on and go with them, but that was it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a movie about this woman made one choice, another woman made a different choice, and they're both questioning their lives.
Yeah.
So like that was pretty much it, and then the next generation is coming up, and they'll probably have to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, they parallel the daughter when she's sleeping with Mikhail, and Mom is basically frantic because she doesn't want her to get pregnant and be forced to make the same choice, all of that. So, I don't really have a lot else to talk about with this, but I do want to talk about the reveal of Shirley asking the question, because she asked it of two people.
Yes.
One, the director who made the choice.
Yep. And
two, the person who got it, Anne Bancroft's character.
Yes.
I thought it was a great choice.
Oh, yeah. The answers? Oh, sorry.
No, to have the director not remember.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yes, the answer was it wasn't that important to him. It was his ballet. He did not, he needed the right person in the part, but what it meant to her meant nothing to him.
And
I
just
love
like
that.
after years and years and years of wanting to ask this question, the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. I loved that. I loved that.
Because that is real. That is genuine. That is something
Yes.
that would happen. You would fester and fester and get to the point and be like, you're not going to get the answer that you want. Even if it was a yes or a no, it wouldn't have mattered.
And not that this matters, but did you get the impression that Anne Bancroft had been pregnant at one point?
I didn't, but I wasn't. To be perfectly honest, I was kind of tuning in and out at points, so there may have been a moment where that was referenced or something that I just missed.
Talking about choices a lot, small C, but at one point it felt like they were talking about her making a big C choice, and it sounded that way to me, but it was never explicit. So I'm just curious.
Nope,
I could have gone either way.
And then, so the second time she asked Anne's character, and initially they just fight, and Anne gives her one answer, and then they fight some more, and then Anne gives her the real answer.
Yes.
I did like how that was done, because in the heat of the fight, she gave her the answer she absolutely would not want to have heard.
And the real answer.
And then after coming back together and fighting everything through, she's like, yes, this is the answer that I know you want to hear. I didn't know whether the second one was the true answer or if it was just a placation to make her feel better. I think it was kind of the latter, but
that's how I read it. And also, I loved their fight.
Yeah.
That is two girls who don't fight.
Yes.
That is how that would happen. I loved it. And then they end up like laughing over it, and that also seemed very genuine. It really did seem like a very genuine movie of real human emotions.
I'm very glad that I watched it.
Yeah.
I think based on the other movies, it deserves to be because of the cast and because of the quality that they were attempting versus a lot of the other films of that year. So I will say that it belonged there, but barely.
I think it belonged there.
Okay.
So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it had quality, a gravitas and a quality. Even having read the other movies from that year, I'm glad it was nominated.
I got it. Okay, what's next?
You choose this one.
Okay, I would like to save Star Wars for last because it's either going to be a very short conversation or a longer one. And I would like to get Annie Hall right out of the way.
Okay, I'm interested in why you want to, so let's go.
Annie Hall, directed by Woody Allen, from a screenplay written by Alan and Marshall Brickman, produced by Woody Allen's manager, Charles Jaffe. Stars Woody Allen, Diane Keaton, Tony Roberts, Carol Kane, Paul Simon, Janet Margolin, Shelley Duvall, Christopher Walken, Colin Dewhurst. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Original Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Actress. Director, it won for, again, leaving picture out, Director, Screenplay, and Actress.
Fun facts. Oh, AFI. So it is currently on the 2007 AFI list at number 35. This is a drop from number 31 where it was on the original list.
Oh, so the re-up they did in 2007 or whatever?
Yep. So in the new one, it's 35. They have re-upped it. Fun facts. I just found this a chuckle. At one point, they were standing around, like, making up backstory about people in the movie, and they said, oh, that guy could win a Truman Capote lookalike contest. It was Truman Capote.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. And also, Woody Allen was the first person nominated for Best Actor, Director, and Screenwriter since Orson Welles in Citizen Kane for this movie.
Really? Okay.
Mhm.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Good for him. Is that all the fun facts?
That's all the fun facts.
Okay.
I'm sure there's many fun facts. That's all I can do.
I'm going to come in hard and heavy with this one.
Okay.
I do not like Woody Allen films.
Okay.
Never have. When Woody Allen directs a movie that does not star him and is not about his personal neuroses,
Yep.
he directs a decent film. I can think of a couple. The Purple Rose of Cairo is one.
Yep.
The one, I don't remember the name of it, but the one that had Sean Penn, who plays Django Reinhardt, the guitar player.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't remember either.
So
Crimes and Misdemeanors?
that still had him.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Hannah and her sisters had him.
Yeah, he wasn't the focus, but yes, he was in it.
And all of those movies are just basically, you know, what it's like to be living in New York with these neuroses. And I don't like them.
Okay.
I do not like the fact that everything that he says has to be filtered through whatever is going on in his neurotic brain at that point, that everything has to be explained, that he clearly does not like other people because they just don't get him. Like, a lot of it is the same movie over and over, and it
Yes.
all starts with this one.
Yes.
So I did not like this. It was a struggle for me to get through because every
Fair.
time he spoke, I was just like, shut up. I was honestly yelling at the television saying,
Okay.
just shut up. I had such a hard time with this movie.
It's going to be a short conversation probably. That I enjoyed this movie. I didn't really love it, but I enjoyed this movie. I enjoy some Woody Allen movies. And by the way, asterisk Woody Allen. Yes, we know. I'm talking about the movie. But I thought it did some stylistic things that I hadn't seen before that I thought were very clever. I liked the non-linear way it was handled. I loved the way they were on the date and talking to each other, and you were seeing the captions underneath because that happens. You're like having a conversation, and I'm thinking in my head, shut up, shut up, shut up. So, you know, like I loved to see that kind of stuff.
And I was actually going to point out that was something that I did enjoy, having that conversation with subtitles so you could see what was going on in their heads.
Yeah.
I thought that was handled well. I thought it was a great choice. I thought it was at moments kind of like chuckly funny.
There were a couple of moments that were just very funny.
Yeah.
You know, but not laugh out loud, but chuckly funny is perfect.
So that was a highlight of the
Yep.
movie for me, and I was going to bring that up, so thank you.
Yep, I thought the family dinner was funny. I thought the Christopher Walken, first of all, it's a joy to see Christopher Walken anywhere, anytime. But when he tells the story of how he really just wants to randomly drive into traffic and then he drives them to the airport, that's another one of those chuckle moments. I thought that was very, very funny. What I have, and also it was kind of the first modern romance relationship rom-com of its time. So even though we're sick of him and his style, and I agree with you on that, and everything he's done has been derivative of this movie, it was the first movie, and I think we forget that this is the first
Yes.
time you saw a lot of that.
And I will freely admit that my bias of seeing so many Woody Allen films over the years,
Yes.
and I honestly don't know if I've ever seen any all. I'm gonna say I haven't
Mhm.
because like that scene where they're on the date having with the subtitles,
Yeah.
I would have remembered that,
Right.
and I didn't, so I most likely did not see it. In 1977, this movie coming out, I can see why people flocked to it. I can
Yes.
see why people enjoyed it so much. I tried really hard to put all of that aside. I just couldn't do it. That's my bias,
Nope.
nobody else's, but I just couldn't do it.
No, I get that. I think what I had as the cons, which is what you're saying, is the man is just too neurotic, and
Yes.
it's not fun to watch that after a while.
Yep.
It's East Coast versus West Coast, and East Coast is 100% right because that's Woody Allen's view. It's very specific to its time of everyone's at an analyst for 5 days a week, and the whole, you know, like him being Jewish is so much a part of his character and who he is, and I get that, but the way it's shown as he thinks everyone's looking at him as a negative rather than as just what it is. And also they are an obviously terrible couple. And why did they keep trying to get together? I think it's wildly interesting that this is supposedly one of the best romantic comedies ever, and they don't end up together. That's weird to me. I was gonna say it's weird to me. So like I appreciated it. I thought it was funny in parts. I've watched it before. I'll probably watch it again, but
I think this is one of those movies that people people say they like much more than they do because of the popularity of it, and that there's a certain thing with being of a certain intellect where these are the boxes you have to check.
Yes.
Like you have to appreciate Woody Allen, particularly Annie Hall.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do this, and this is just one of those things, which makes it even worse for
Yeah.
you because like no, fucking no.
The other thing too is just as this is the first Woody Allen and everything else is derivative, this is the first time we see Diane Keaton as that neurotic kind of, oh, I'm just so funny, and oh, is it okay?
She was great. I don't want to take anything away from her.
I do, because because that's all she ever is from this point forward. I mean, you never see her as anything other than this part, except for Reds. I'll give you Reds later on, in way down the road. But everything else she's been in has been either in a Woody Allen movie playing this role, or in a romantic comedy playing this role.
Huh. I'd have to go back through and know I haven't seen a lot of her movies. I'm gonna trust in what you say.
Because you probably don't see Woody Allen or a lot of rom-coms, so I'm guessing.
I watch more rom-coms than I admit to.
All right, I like that. All right.
Yeah, so this one was just so hard for me to get through. It really was, and I tried. I gave it a good old Herculean effort to separate. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, you can't separate Woody Allen from a Woody Allen movie. You just can't. No. Okay.
All right, moving on to, I have next The Goodbye Girl.
Let's do The Goodbye Girl.
All right. Goodbye Girl, directed by Herbert Ross, written by Neil Simon, starring Richard Dreyfuss, Marsha Mason, Quinn Cummings, Paul Benedict, produced by Ray Stark, nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress. Richard Dreyfuss did win for his role, which I think is 100% awesome because he was astounding.
Have you seen this movie before?
I think I did back when I was in sophomore or junior year of high school.
Okay.
Because I remembered certain scenes. I did not remember the tone. I did not remember the shift. I remembered the pouring rain talking on the telephone.
Okay.
So yes, but I had very little recollection.
Okay.
Fun facts.
Fun facts is, well, most people know Marsha Mason was married to Neil Simon when this movie was written.
I didn't. So
she was married to Neil Simon when this was written, and he wrote it. It was originally had a different start to the story, and it was supposed to be the story of Dustin Hoffman being discovered by Mike Nichols.
Oh.
So it was originally that, and also it was made into a Broadway play in the 90s starring Martin Short and Bernadette Peters. It did not last long on Broadway.
I wonder why.
Yes.
I love Bernadette Peters, but Martin Short and Bernadette Peters in a sort of romantic comedy does not seem to work for me.
No, and I'm gonna guess Bernadette Peters maybe can outsing Martin Short a little bit. No aspersion on Martin Short, but I'm just gonna guess she can outsing everyone. So.
Okay.
All right. Thoughts?
This one, I love a good opening. The tone was set almost immediately with this, and it never really varied too much throughout. You had your ups and downs, but the tone I thought was consistent all the way through, which I appreciated. The plot itself moves along pretty quickly. There's not overstaying in moments. There's not too much of, I don't think anybody, except for occasionally the kid, overacts at all. They all seem very genuine. The only real issue I had with this one is they get involved pretty quickly, and I just wanted, I think, a little bit more of of the tension between them before suddenly they got together. Aside from that, I thought this was nearly flawless all the way through.
I love this movie. This is actually it's not one of my top 20 favorites, but it is a favorite movie. Own the DVD. I absolutely and let's just spend a minute on Richard Dreyfuss because he was so good in this. His character, he was funny. He pushed back on her in a way that wasn't mean or aggressive, but just no, this is the way it's going to be. He was kind and sweet, and I thought he was so great with the kid too.
Yeah.
In a scene that today might play as creepy.
Yes.
And in the 70s it wouldn't have and shouldn't have, and I'm glad that it didn't. But he didn't give a creepy vibe off at all. It was sweet and kind, and they had an adorable relationship.
The only part of this that I think would be problematic today is the scene in the bathroom where he basically starts kissing her neck, and she's like, no, and he keeps pushing. That would be a little problematic today. But even in that scene, she says something along the lines of, no, don't make me feel happy today.
Exactly, yes.
Which is a clear indication, at least to me, that like
Yes.
she would like this to happen, but she's having problems with it in the moment.
Exactly. Yep. I totally agree with that. I thought that as I was watching it as well. I loved the bookending of the rain and the phone booth at the beginning and at the end. I did think the kid was adorable. I thought she was well played as far as a combination of very, very old, wise woman, like she's been through it all. She's seen the boyfriends of her mother, but also sweet, innocent girl too. At the end of it, she just wants this to work.
The young child in a movie that is wise beyond their years is in so many different films, and sometimes that works for me, and other times it does not. Like when the child is the star and they are wise beyond their years, making choices that no child would ever make ever, that's a problem for me. This one just seemed like she's been through a lot at her age, so she's just accepting all of this, and it's fine or not fine. She will push back, she will not. But her and her mother have clearly established a relationship that is, while it's mother and daughter, it's also a very adult relationship.
Exactly. And the other relationship that I liked, you don't usually see in a movie, is Marsha Mason and her girlfriend, who helps her find a job, and she was going to let her, they suggested that Lucy stay with her if she goes out to California with Richard Dreyfuss, and it's like, usually when you see two women in a competitive field, they compete with each other.
Oh, I see.
And I loved the fact that she had a friend who was looking out for her, and like, yeah, we shared a boyfriend, but hey, we're all in this together, and I liked that kind of girlfriend camaraderie kind of thing. It was, and also they were, the main couple, they were just a sweet couple, and they had great chemistry too. So I liked that. What problematic things? I've only got one that I did want to say.
The only problematic thing was the bathroom scene, which would be problematic today. I don't think they were even trying. They were trying to hint or allude to anything.
No.
It would just be written differently today.
Yes.
It wouldn't be so much pressure of him trying to push.
It wouldn't be. It would be words rather than physicality.
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't love that I think they could have stepped up a bit, and again I think this was the thing of the times, was Marsha Mason really was not a well-formed character as far as she existed around the men in her life.
I was just going to say her character is defined by the men or lack thereof in her life.
Yeah, but it was sweet and a good time.
There are some, and I've been looking for them, and this is the first clear one that I found out of all the movies we've done so far. References, like of the time references that would be completely lost on today's generation.
Oh, like what?
When he once they're actually together, and it's 5, maybe 10 minutes after they're together, something happens. I don't remember the circumstance, but he looks at Marsha and he's like, "How do blood tests strike you?" Which is a clear indication that they were going to go and get married.
Yes.
Because back then you had to have a blood test in order to go and get married. And I was like, that's a reference that's going to be totally lost on anybody under 30.
I never thought of it, but you're totally right. Yep, absolutely right. If the phone booth didn't lose them, then that would happen.
What is that?
Yeah, exactly.
I really had a great time with this one. I was looking forward to it because in the back of my head I had remembered enjoying it. And I was very glad that this did not disappoint like some of the others have.
Exactly, and even the song Goodbye Girl is on a couple of my playlists. It's like the perfect 70s soft rock, I enjoy that.
I think it's called yacht rock now is what
is that what it is? Okay, yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, on to the big one, Star Wars. Okay. So, written and directed by George Lucas, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing, Alec Guinness, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew, David Prowse, James Earl Jones, nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, or Best Original Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor for Alec Guinness. Not going to say which one won. Fun facts go.
Fun facts. Okay, you challenged me to say, can you find a fun fact? I bet you can't find a fun fact about Star Wars because everyone knows everything about Star Wars.
I did.
All right, I found a fact that I think is fun.
So it technically means
I'm guessing like 4 people in the world know this.
Oh, okay.
Carrie Fisher and I have the same birthday. So I find that fun. It is a fact, and not many people know that. Libras unite.
You almost made me snort with that one.
Thank you.
That was some deep diving You succeeded in the task. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I was not expecting that at all. I was actually expecting, like, did you know that in 1972, blah, 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 blah. Nope. Okay,
so now,
nice job.
5 people know this, maybe 10. AFI list.
Yes.
It is currently number 13. It previously was number 14.
Okay.
So it's moving on up.
So, this one, for me, and I think for a lot of people, would be very difficult to critique through a 1977 lens. Knowing what this film has become and all of the things that it has generated, I mentioned offline before, and I'll mention it for everybody else, and I challenge you to disagree with me. Name another movie that has the cultural significance more than this one does. This is the all-time #1 cultural significance movie. There were literally hundreds of documentaries about small sections of it, the overall, the behind the scenes, the technical aspect. I mean, there's just the amount of other films that both reference, parody, cop, or just have it built in as part of their plot, some Star Wars thing, like going to see the Star Wars for the first time or whatever, is unparalleled.
I'd say TV shows as well, because Battlestar Galactica, the original, was basically in response to this.
This movie has had such impact worldwide on so many people that it's very difficult to actually now see it as just a film.
Yeah.
No matter how many times you see it, no matter how many times you can quote it, taking it outside of just being a film is nearly impossible.
Fair.
So everything that I'm going to say is said fully acknowledging that.
Okay.
I did try to look at it as just a film.
Okay.
And that was very difficult. So, we'll go through some technical choices they made. The opening scroll, an now iconic opening scroll that other things have adopted. I thought that works incredibly well for setting up what your story is, because in this movie you dive into a world that you have no idea what the hell is going on, and there's all sorts of motivations for things that you only find out later on in the film. And without that opening scroll, I don't know if the first half hour of this movie would be tolerable for a lot of people, because it's slow. Outside of that opening laser battle scene, the rest of it is very slow.
Doesn't it start with Chapter 4, A New Hope?
Yep.
So, 1977, I'm 7 years old. I went to the theater with my dad, my uncle, my sister, and we literally thought we got there late, because it starts Chapter 4.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
good.
So that
you
is...
thought you missed 1 through 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So like that is my only truly in 1977, that's the memory I have was, oh shoot, did we miss something? What's going on? So to dive full on head first into a movie that we're supposed to, we're gonna find it all out, but okay, here we are, we're in. That's very surprising. That was very new.
Yeah, and people asked him about that, and we can throw out all these different facts, but he did say in early interviews that he had 9 movies planned out. But he didn't have them all flushed out, but originally he had 9 movies. Then years later, that was disputed whether he had 9 or it was only going to be 6.
Interesting.
So
I always heard 9. Yeah.
Apparently he has kind of flip-flopped back and forth.
Okay.
I don't know if that's just George fucking with people because he likes to do that.
Yes.
I will say, just a side note, for intellectual property, George Lucas, before he sold it, was probably one of the most generous people. When somebody wanted to do something with his property, they would ask him, and almost every time he was like, absolutely, go ahead. Robot Chicken, they asked him, like, we are going to be making fun of you, and it's going to be kind of gross at times, and he's like, totally fine.
I'm actually surprised about that, because I've always heard of like the folks who write fan fiction or whatever, and it gets taken down, and people, is that because he sold the rights and the new owners are?
Yeah, well, it's now Disney.
Yeah.
And
Disney,
they're horrible. So I don't know about that.
Okay.
The fan fiction might, if it was done while he was in control of it, it might be because one of his...
It's just terrible, maybe?
Yeah, that, and also there is an ongoing debate on what's quote-unquote canon or not in the Star Wars universe.
True, okay.
So if you're writing fan fiction and it gets popular, does that become part of the thing or not?
Fair.
So I don't know, but that's just my guesses.
Okay.
Sci-fi films in particular are always a little challenging because number one, effects, what do you have? I mean, nowadays you have very good digital digital effects and practical effects. Back then, not so much. One of the things that created a lot of the innovation in this is their absolute lack of money. So they had to get creative with what they had, which is why that opening shot you see the way that you see it, because it was the only way they could film it due to the budgetary things. So the world is very well established. Like if you look at the rules that are built and put into place, it does follow its own logic and rules, which a lot of times in sci-fi movies they just
That's
do
the worst
not.
part, yeah.
So it fulfilled that absolutely. The plot is a very straightforward plot. It is very easy to follow. You have new people coming in, but they're all going for a thing. It only really takes a turn kind of at the end when they then go after the Empire to blow up the Death Star. But it's a linear plot, so it's very easy to follow while throwing all of these things at you. There are tons of different themes that are being played around with, and some are just hinted at, some are fully explored, and the level of each I thought was totally acceptable. He didn't try to tackle too much, he didn't try to tackle too little. He gave just enough to keep the momentum of this movie going forward, to keep you kind of going forward in your seat even. You got excited when there was an action scene. Those were perfectly placed throughout, so you could sit.
Well paced.
Yep, you could sit with moments and characters and get to know characters, allow them to speak, and then move on to something else. It's hard for me to find flaws in this movie, and to my knowledge, I don't really have a lot.
Okay.
So that's where I'm going to start. This one's hard for me, man.
You gonna hit me with a shoe if I come up with anything negative?
No, not at all.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I'm not, because it's a great movie. Of course it is. It's one of its kind. It sets the pace for everything that comes after it. Looking at it in a couple of different ways. So the first one is the effects and just the sci-fi piece of it. They did so many things you have never seen before. And
Absolutely.
Just even, I always come back to, as a kid, that cantina, the scene with all the people in the bar.
Cantina.
Thank you very much.
You're
the
welcome.
cantina scene. You come back to that, and like all of the different, various things and creatures that they created, and they're all kind of hanging out there. I think that is so cool. No one's ever done anything like that. The score, like exactly, iconic score, and also sets up the fact that this is a hero's journey. And this is not something small. This is something big. And then you go to the desert, and it's like kind of quiet, and then they have the big fights. Well paced. It's a short, tight movie. Like right now the Avengers movies are all almost 4 hours. And so you look at something like this, and you're right, they gave you just enough. The only real tiny criticism I have is with some of the character development, because in this movie alone you don't have a ton of character development for some of the characters. It's all coming, and I think it was by design that they probably did that. They didn't want to set up everything. But there are, like Luke and Han and Leia will become who they become.
Right.
You don't see it all here.
No.
So that's kind of probably the only piece that I have a slight bit of criticism, and I think it was probably again by design. But they created a genre.
My only real criticism of it is the end. So they blow up the Death Star, and then you cut very quickly to the medal ceremony, and then the movie's over.
Yes.
Like, it's almost a letdown, because all of this stuff, and then, yay, we won, and oh, there's a medal ceremony. Okay, what? It's over?
Did we know part 2 was coming? Because I can't remember
at the time,
that.
I was 77, so I was 6.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
I don't either, yeah.
It did come very shortly thereafter because it was such a mega success. I purposely did not look up the amount because it would probably blow away any record of anything ever, adjusted for inflation, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, that's my only real, and nobody had ever seen anything like this before. There were tons of sci-fi movies before this, but they were all done so poorly, so schlocky, so like over the top, or like you could see the sets that were actually they filmed, and they looked like sets. I remember talking to my dad years later about when we went to see it for the first time, because I don't remember it. I remember being there because we were in literally the front row, so we were doing this the whole time. But I don't remember.
And we're in Maine. Movie theaters are not crowded on the regular in Maine. You can go in and you're fine. We had the same experience. We had to sit like in a terrible seat, and my dad was like 3 over from us.
And his biggest thing was, once the movie started, you had the crawl, and then you had the spaceship come through with the spaceship following like that. He's like, we'd never seen that before in anything. And my dad is a massive sci-fi fan. He's like, we'd never seen that.
The hyperspace jump, I don't think they'd seen anything like that with going through the star systems.
Yep. But that was the moment he said that I knew this was going to be a special film because of the way that scene was shot. You'd never seen it. You actually did have lasers that looked like, space lasers are supposed to look like, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's just like, and we were in for the ride. I think we saw it 3 times.
Oh, cool.
The year that it opened up. And they kept re-releasing it.
I do remember that.
What version did you see? Because there's like 7 or 8 different versions of this movie.
I don't know.
So,
I have no idea. I know it was when it might not have been when it originally came out. I think you're right. I think it might have been even a re-release the next year or a year or 2 later.
So George notoriously has gone back and re-edited this movie a lot.
So for this conversation, I watched what was on Disney.
Okay, so did yours have the scene with Han Solo and?
Yes, and I do know that was a new one.
Yeah. So that's, I think, the third
bounty
or
hunter,
fourth.
right?
Yeah. Jabba the Hutt, where he steps on his tail.
Yeah.
That was not in the theatrical release.
I do remember hearing that, and when I saw it, I'm like, oh, I don't think I've seen that piece before, and then I remembered that.
And there are small little scenes like that were just put. That's the big glaring one.
Okay.
But he added, once the technology was available, he added things to help flush out the anytime they were in like a city or anything. So that he added more creatures in digitally.
Oh, okay.
Because before that, it was a lot sparser.
Okay. I
then,
didn't notice that piece.
Yeah, and for the most part, all the additions that he made are just to flush things out. I have not been able to see the original theatrical release since he changed it. I've looked for it everywhere. The whole question of who shot first, one of his edits is he makes it very clear who shot first, so he answered the question, but the original theatrical release, there's a slight delay, so that's why people were questioning who shot first. It's clearly Han, anybody else is wrong. But he did adjust it so that would be answered that it is Han who shot first.
Okay, I was going to say, so he clarified that it was Han,
Correct.
right? All right. Okay, interesting.
So yeah, and it will depend on which version you watch. They're all fine. I understand why he put the scene with Jabba in to help clarify things for later on. It's fine. I don't think it's necessary, but it's fine.
No, and Han Solo, I mean, obviously Harrison Ford and his performance, and I would also say Alec Guinness and his performance, I think, stood out as terrific. I think that Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill got better over the course of the movies. I think
she was 19 when they filmed it.
She was a baby, exactly. Yeah, I think that they are just a little weaker, but obviously they got much better.
Yeah. Alec is notorious for when he signed on for this, he did not want to do it, but needed money.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
And I think he, after being in like the Bridge Over the River Kwai and this very English.
Great Escape.
Yeah. I think he was only doing plays at the time, and he wanted to get back into film, and this was the only role he was being offered. And he, when he read the script, he hated it. He did not like it.
Well, because
years later, he then came around and said, "Well, I get it now because I still don't like the movie, but I get that it has this significance."
I am guessing that on the script, it may be flat because a lot of it is the effects and the special effects and how, kind of how it looks more than the script itself. The script itself isn't probably that great.
No, it's straightforward linear plot. Like, here's a hero's journey. Here are the things that are going to happen. We're going to have a rogue, and we're going to, so.
Exactly.
But culturally, it has become such a massive thing. And again, I challenge anybody to name a film that has had more cultural impact than Star Wars.
I agree.
And I don't know if Empire is actually nominated for Best Picture or not. I don't think it is, so we won't.
I don't remember.
We won't be able to have the debate of which is an actual better film.
Right.
Because you can't have Empire without Star Wars, but is Empire a better technically crafted film?
Godfather 2, that we were able to have that conversation. Yeah.
So if we do, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts about it.
Okay. All right.
you have anything else?
I do not.
We have to reveal
The winner of the Best Picture.
Yep. So would you like to do the honors?
The winner of the Best Picture was Annie Hall.
And I am going to guess, and then you can guess for me if you don't mind. I'm going to guess that you think they got it wrong and should have been Goodbye Girl.
I think they got it wrong.
But not Goodbye Girl?
But not Goodbye Girl. Of the movies, I love Goodbye Girl the most. I do not think it's the Best Picture.
Wow, okay.
Star Wars.
Really?
Yes. And I'm going to guess that you think they got it right, that Annie Hall is excellent because you loved it so much.
No, I am going to shock you with my answer.
You think it was Goodbye Girl?
No.
Okay. You think they got it right?
No.
What do you think?
I don't think that the best film of the year was actually nominated for best film.
Well, that's not an answer. You can't
It
go out of the box like
It
that.
is absolutely an answer.
Okay. What do you think? Close Encounters?
Yes.
Okay. I've never seen Close Encounters, so I cannot engage in this conversation, unfortunately.
Well, you're
I'm
going
sorry.
to soon.
I am going to very, very soon, as a matter of fact.
Close Encounters, and then, so Richard was in two
Okay.
movies that year.
Yes.
Close Encounters is such an incredibly well-crafted movie. I think it's, outside of maybe Saving Private Ryan, it is the best Spielberg movie ever done. He is at the top of his game. Everything about that movie is near perfect.
Okay.
And the fact that it was not put into this grouping bums me out so much.
Okay.
So I think Close Encounters was and should be the winner that year. You're getting it delivered.
I am. Of the four that were, the five, but we really can't vote on Julia. Of the four that we have seen, what would you put at Best Picture?
This one's tricky because I want to say Star Wars because I think it is an incredibly well-crafted film.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's just my bias or not. I really don't. So I'm gonna say Star Wars, acknowledging all of the bias that I have.
Yeah. I don't have the bias you have. I enjoy the movie, and I think it was the Best Picture of the year.
Alright.
Because it had some flaws that I saw, but again, it did things in that year that had never been done before, and it was just so kind of out of its time that, literally, that I think it deserved Best Picture.
A lot of people forget what the opening actually says, or they gloss by it. It says, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Okay.
J.J. Abrams said something once, and it just, I've read that hundreds of times. And he's like, a lot of people, they just latch onto the galaxy far, far away. They forget a long time ago.
I certainly did.
Yeah,
Okay.
and most people do. Like, this happened way long time ago. And yes, it was in a galaxy far, far away. But this is not like current history. This was a long time ago, and people forget that.
Interesting. All right.
Anyway,
so
I think we've said all that we have to say. Do you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay, then
Thank
I'm
you very
just
much.
gonna do my princess wave and do the liking and subscribing and all of that.
Follow, like, subscribe. Go check us out on YouTube.